The excitement, the joy from the cup football has been in full flow in both the men's and women's game. The Premier League is all but wrapped up. Liverpool are officially champions. Ipswich, Southampton, and the other teams who don't come to mind are back down to the Championship. It's a shame what's happened with them this year. Leicester is their name. They have won a league recently, but obviously this was not the best season for them. However, there is still so much to play for in the Women's Champions League, the Men's Champions League, in the FA Cup, and of course the race for Europe. But this episode is all about the magic of the cups and what's all still to play for, both the men and the women in this wonderful world of football. This is One Kick from Glory. It's me and Matthew here today.
Yep.
And we're going to start off talking about the FA Cup, the oldest cup competition in the world, one of the most prestigious and one which has always got its allure. And Matthew had his predictions set from the middle of the season that he could see a small team going all the way and winning it. And no disrespect to Man City, but that would also apply for them too. But let's talk about the cup and what's happened this weekend. Obviously, we've seen games between Crystal Palace and Aston Villa, Man City and Nottingham Forest, and they've all had widely different outcomes which are going to affect how this trophy will end up. But for you, Matthew, how happy are you that your prediction might be on the verge of coming true?
I'm still very much intrigued by this whole season. It's like been a changing of the guard, a changing command this season. So we've already had Newcastle win the Carabao Cup. Granted, they're not what you call a small club, but they're not like traditional big 4 or 6 that we're used to in football today. So that's already one ticked off. And the fact that Crystal Palace, we got to talk about Crystal Palace in that game, man, absolutely took Villa to the absolute cleaners. Bear in mind, they only came off of a Champions League quarter-final not that long ago, getting as far in as they did. And all in all, they can look back at it as a good season, Aston Villa, getting far in the Cup, still a chance of getting top 5 in the Premier League as well. But they weren't ready for what Crystal Palace had, especially in the way Eze is having a good few months, weeks, whatever it is, man. Have you seen his goal?
100%. I watched the whole game.
Oh, his goal was, that's a guy in the moment right now. He's living it up. I mean, if he wins that, and the all being May 18th, really want them to win it. I really want them to win it. Not just for myself, for me getting this prediction right, but it'll be just nice seeing them, meaning so much to a club that has such loyal fans, a family-orientated club, a club that's steeped in its tradition. And we always say it's like a vibesy club. It's a South London club. It's got that vibe. It's a trendy club sort of thing. It's on the up and up with all these young, youthful, exciting players. We'd love to see them just lift that trophy there, man. And so many young and talented players. Great game though, great game, and credit to them. Villa got they weren't ready, man. They absolutely just were not ready, and just very little reply. But they can still look at it as a decent season. They really can.
Yeah, I think for Villa, it's one of those ones where they managed to get European football back, and they really celebrated that every match day, every moment in the stadium. You really felt like Villa are back at the big time. They had their Champions League trophy out there on display for the teams coming to Villa Park. So I love that they really celebrated that moment. But as you said, let's focus on Crystal Palace, the culture club from South London, Vibes FC as we also call them as well. What I liked about the game, and obviously the build-up into it, they had a game in midweek against Arsenal at the Emirates. I had the misfortune of being there. It wasn't the result I wanted, I went there with Craig. But what I did like is the fact that they came into this game in the FA Cup off the back of a very positive outcome. They drew at Arsenal. The team he picked in that game, it was a good mixture of the players that started at the weekend. He swapped out the front three, a few changes in midfield as well, so he rested the likes of Wharton and others. But Nketiah got a start, and then Mateta comes off the bench and gets the equaliser. Disappointing for Arsenal to drop points, but for me, what I liked about it is that momentum. That's one of the things Glasner said as well. He picked that team because he wanted them to, those players who needed to rest, he rested. Those players that wanted to keep their rhythm going, they got the start. Eze played in that game as well. Sarr was on the bench at the Emirates. And then you come to the FA Cup semi-final now, big day at Wembley. They had their massive tifo out, which was incredible, of a fan that had gotten a shirt from Andros Townsend back in 2018. It's an amazing story behind that whole tifo, and that Crystal Palace have been really great at them this whole season. And then the game kicks off, and you could just see from minute one they were ready for Aston Villa. Yeah. And maybe Aston Villa had a little bit of European hangover, a bit of the, last few Premier League games have been a bit up and down. They've had a lot of tough matches. And actually, they had a day's extra rest compared to Crystal Palace. But you wouldn't have known that from watching it. But for you, how important or impressed were you with that first half from Crystal Palace? Big game like this. Obviously, let's talk about the goal as well. But how impressed were you with Crystal Palace and how they approached the game?
That is what you call stepping up and making not letting the occasion take over you, but you taking over the occasion. Like, it wasn't that long ago because they've been at this spot before. I believe they got to an FA Cup final nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So when in money, you're wounded from something like that. You want to make this one count and be like, this time when we get there, we're going to do it right. Same thing with Newcastle, how they felt the Carabao Cup 2 years ago. You may have felt at the time when they got there, they probably weren't that ready for it. And Man United showed their experience and came by and won. Whereas it could be a similar thing for Crystal Palace this time. There's a bit more of a readiness with this team. You can argue that the team they have here is better than the team they had back there. I certainly think so. But because especially now how they've kind of been on a bit of a rise up in the last few years. They had that kind of decent spell with Patrick Vieira when Roy came in and steadied the ship. He's always had like some kind of love at the club. And for all as bad as he did at England, he always was decent for Crystal Palace. I think he understands the kind of youthful culture and the state of like allowing players to kind of express themselves a little bit more at a club like this where there's a bit more freedom and just less of that pressure of expectation they have at bigger clubs. And even though some of them might go off in the future to somewhere a bit different anyway, but they were that first half. They'll probably look back on some of the best football, one of the big moments for their fans, like just showing what they're able to do when they really kind of knuckle down. Because I think they had a slow start to the season, if I'm not mistaken, in the Premier League, but they've really kind of picked up. Obviously, they've had some misfortunes along the way, but they've really knuckled down and found a way that works for them. And this could be the big reward. Hopefully lifting that trophy at Wembley, but they were amazing, absolutely electric. And that goal again, that is a man in the moment.
Yeah, I just loved the way how Eze went about it. He showed for the ball, he called for it. Got it outside the box near the D, and just took one touch of his left foot to set it, and then just wrapped it with his right foot. I mean, the goalkeeper had no chance to do anything about it. And the celebration as well, just standing there. Like, yeah, I've arrived. Like, I know. It's me. I know.
That is aura.
Cup semi-final. I know it's me. Love it. And obviously, then they went on. They got the penalty. Mm-hmm. He got fouled again. Very sloppy play at the back from Aston Villa, but he got fouled. I mean, they gave the ball away in transition, broke down the middle, one pass through, and he was in. Got chopped down. And Mateta gets the penalty, and he's been really good this season with them, and really good with his goals. Like I said, he got the goal at the Emirates in midweek, so you would have comfortably put a safe assurances that he would have delivered on that one. And unfortunately, he just put too much power on it and put it high and wide. And, Emi Martinez was doing his usual dance and celebration on the ground. But what I loved about that situation is even though he missed the penalty, it didn't seem to affect the atmosphere. Like the Palace fans didn't drop. They didn't say, oh no, not again. This is not going to be our day. It was almost like he missed. Anyway, it's just like that, And then, they carried on, and of course, Ismaila Sarr gets two crucial goals to wrap the thing off. Massive credit to Eddie Nketiah for the third one because they win the ball in transition again. Great breakaway, and he's got the ball in sort of the left-hand side. They've got about three more defenders in front of them, two on the break, and he could have easily kept running with the ball and tried to look for an opportunity for himself to get a goal. But he played the ball through so perfectly weighted that all Sarr had to do was run onto it, take a touch, look at where Martinez is and pick his slot and get his goal. And that's a massive credit to Eddie because, he went to Crystal Palace beginning of the season from Arsenal. There was a lot of hope that he would go there, establish himself as like the first choice, rotate in with Mateta. And it hadn't really worked out, wasn't really getting the goals. And he's got a handful of goals since the turn of the year. But what you have seen is that he's just kept working. He's really bought into the Palace ethos. Yeah. He's from South London, so he gets what it's all about. And he's showing that, I might not have got the goals this year, but I'm going to apply myself on the pitch. He was unlucky at the Emirates, but for a Kivior wonder block, he would have had a goal in that game. And again, like today, he had another couple of little chances, which was well saved and stuff. So credit to him. But I do want to talk about the manager, Oliver Glasner. I know we've mentioned him a lot on this podcast. I think he's a manager that I think has done an incredible job since coming in. I mean, I ran through his CV a couple of episodes ago of what he's done in his career so far. That's incredible. We know teams like Tottenham will be sniffing around because they're always looking for a manager. Man United might consider going for him if they're looking to change things up over there. But I really think Crystal Palace deserve and have gotten a manager who not only gets what the club's all about, and his speech at full time was just phenomenal. What he said in dressing room to the players and how much it meant to him and to them and what they've done for the club and the fans. But also a manager who is blending, because they've always played great football over the years. They've always had ballers, and they've got that, but they're starting to develop that defensive resilience, which has been a bit hit and miss this season. But they're starting to get together a core of players back there with Wharton shielding. Chris Richards has had a really massive turn to the season at the back end now. He's looking really solid. After they lost Cherry Chalobah from the loan when he went to Chelsea, that was a massive loss. But Richards just stepped in and okay, Chalobah's gone, that's my job now. Mark Gray, who, captain fantastic, and he's been amazing at the back. And then there's the question marks over he'll still be the next season. You got Lacroix, you got Munoz as well. And obviously you got Tyreek Mitchell, who, just a dependable back four. And then you're looking at, this is a club that could be something. But how important do you think it is that he has been given the time to build on the good work of Roy Hodgson and keeping him in the league, but now making Palace fans not only dream of like a wonderful day out in Wembley on the 18th, as you said, in May, but also looking forward to the next season. Could they now start dreaming of a European push? Obviously, if they win the FA Cup, they will be in Europe.
Yeah.
But could they now start dreaming of, look, can we look at top 7 next year? Because we know they've been good at that top 12, top 13, top 14 rank. Can they now push in top 7?
It's not overly ambitious to think that they can get there. And you warrant that the way that they play and how hard they work warrants more reward. Plus, you look how the table's gone so far this year. Look, because there are a couple of teams down there, as much as we dislike them, you never expect them to be there where they are. So this is about one of the perfect times to get in that mix of teams. Never mind just getting in the Champions League, but getting into Europe. The Premier League, apart from, say, the title race, when it comes to the race for Europe, it's never been more interesting because literally anyone within a 4-point gap can get it. Literally anyone, was it Champions League? Obviously, it's not going to be one for the Conference League, but Champions League and Europa League is looking so like, it's looking so tight. At one point in the season, just to get away, Bournemouth look like they get in the Champions League. It's not impossible. So Palace will look at that for next year and say, all right, cool, let's look at how this season went. If we just maintaining what we got here with what we're going forward, with, like you said, that defensive kind of just sticking itself together ever so nicely, joined together. Plus, they got a decent keeper in Dean Henderson as well. I mean, remembering he was the main reason Sheffield. Remember Sheffield lockdown football?
Yeah.
He was a key reason why Sheffield United did as well as they did. They did not. I think they were the whole season not losing a single home game. When he left, relegated. Shows you what I mean. So they've got a decent keeper in the back as well. I don't know if he's on loan from Man U. Anyway, by the by, you're looking at, like, as much as we like to say that we miss the old version of football and how it was played and that was a little bit more fun and, had a sense of, freedom about it. There's no arguing that this and how football's evolved, ideas evolve. And they're not just sticking with the big clubs. They're going to your Fulhams. They're going to your Brightons. They're going to your Bournemouths. They're going to your Palaces. As we've already said already, Glasner has already had a good CV at smaller clubs around the world, getting them to be like that kind of reasonably solid. Why? Who's to say that Crystal Palace can't be off that ilk, but to do it in their own style? Compared to their rivals Brighton are about the business. They're about the good play, but they're also about shrewd business. Buy cheap, sell amazingly high, keep them running. Who's to say that they can't have a European run at some point? I think at one point they did, But then on Palace, they're doing that, but they're doing it their own way. They're keeping along with the fun, exciting football, but not necessarily going with a business sort of thing. But they're going a bit more defensively minded sort of thing, running off of that South London energy. Who's to say that it can't be done? And keeping Glasner is how you do that. I mean, but you look at other clubs around, someone like Brentford, for example. How many people were after Thomas Frank for ages?
Very true.
Some people are already asking. Marco Silva, people are going to be after him. The guy, who's Bournemouth manager again? Is it?
Adoni Iraola.
Yeah, who's to say people aren't going to be sifting around him? But their best work, if you realise, is it's not about necessarily going to the big and the glamorous. struggle. Nuno went to Spurs, struggle. Look at him, my man. Look at my Forest. Regardless of what they say from the semi-final of the FA Cup, they've had a fantastic season. Irregardless. So if Oliver Glasner, looking how their trajectory is right now, if they're savvy, they'll do what they need to do to keep that man in the job. Because this year, it's top half of the bottom side, the bottom table, and a cup final. Who next year? Who knows?
That's really true. And just going through the Premier League table, so right now they're currently in 12th on 45 points. Brentford are ahead of them on 46, and then Bournemouth are on 50. There's obviously 4 games left in the Premier League. Brentford have a game in hand against Nottingham Forest because of the Cup. And at the top, let's look at that race for Europe. So right now, obviously Liverpool have the title on 82 points. Arsenal is second at the moment on 67 points. Newcastle have 62 in third. Man City have 61 in fourth. Chelsea are in fifth with 60 points. So Nottingham Forest in sixth on 60, but they've got a game in hand. And then you've got Aston Villa on 57. And with 4 to play, so that's obviously 5 for Nottingham Forest and Brentford, that top 4 could look very different come the end. And anyone could end up sneaking in there because everyone is so evenly matched between those teams. You would argue Forest probably deserve it for what they've done so far this season, but they've got to earn it now and get back in there.
Exactly.
Chelsea have done really well in kind of clawing themselves back into contention because you've really had a rocky season. At one point you were title contenders and now it's like that race for Champions League. Let's get back in Europe that way, or obviously win Conference League. Help on that front. Man City, again, this has been a diabolical season for them, but they could still end with a trophy.
Yep.
Hopefully not, but they could still end with one. And then Newcastle have their trophy, first time in a long time, and they might have Champions League football again, which would be great for them, but not so great for teams that want to buy their striker. So there's just so much subplot to this whole thing. There's so much subplot, and that's what makes it super interesting and super exciting. But I, for one, I'm looking forward to that cup final to see what happens. Obviously, Man City made it against Forest. Yeah, talk me through your thoughts on that game, because I do feel like it could have gone differently for Nottingham Forest. Obviously, City scored early, Rico Lewis with the goal. But Forest had chances to get back into it. But how do you see that game? And do you think Forest will look back on it and rue not being more clinical?
Sometimes you just got, as much as we can't stand this club, you have to, we were talking about earlier, you have to admire their ability to flip it on the switch just like that. And from the moment the get-go, you saw that second minute goal told you all of how the game was going to go. They caught Forest a little bit napping. As much as to gain credit, they've had a fantastic season no matter what anybody says. No matter where they finish, they're going to finish in the top half, and more than that, they're going to finish in Europe. For a team that was relegation fodder at one point, they've had a great season. But they will look back on this and be like, they caught us absolutely napping and there was nothing that we could do about it. They had, but at the same time, there was 2 key chances that are sticking about my mind. One at the start of the second half, great crossing by Hudson-Odoi. All Elanga has to do is guide it in the net because the keeper was already wrong-footed. He was already kind of like, as a goalkeeper, he was kind of moving like that. Where his body was here, his legs were over there.
Oh, no.
So unless you kick it directly at him, that ball's going in the back of the net. He hits it. It looks like he hits it off of his foot. It comes off the wrong way or something, but it just goes on the outside of the post. I literally had my head in that and I was ready to cheer. I was so ready to cheer because, again, they had chances to kind of do some of that. That was one. But they had another one, well, like a half chance, and then Langa again gets it off the post. But you can see it in his face any other day. They're going in the back of the net. In fact, the next game he does that, they're both going in the back of the net. But City, for most of the match, they were more or less in control of the game. It didn't look like they were going to, even if Forest did score, more than likely they were going to go off the other end and get another goal anyway. And when you look at the subs that come off the bench, sometimes you have to admire when something is good. You don't want to, it's like watching Logan Paul at WWE. I can't stand the fool, but he's good at what he does in that damn ring. Yeah, Man City or Logan Paul. How about that? There you go. Man City is Logan Paul.
That's fair.
So, shame for Forest. Really, really a shame. I love them having the cup final, but City just wanted that a little bit more.
Yeah, they do. And obviously, like I said, it's been a disastrous season for Man City. So if they can end it with some trophy, that'll be really good for them to continue building on this, legacy of just winning everything. We're still waiting on 115. And I don't know. We're past March now. We were told March is now April. You're looking at May next.
What's going on, guys?
How can the season go by and then not get charged, not get, whatever? So,
what's going on, guys?
I sigh. Anyway, but we'll move on. Well, let's talk about the Women's Champions League because we'll save the preview for the men's as the final thing we'll talk about this week. But the Women's Champions League final. So the quarters were set up quite nicely. Semis were set up quite nicely, rather. Chelsea had a deficit against Barcelona, took them back to Stamford Bridge. Arsenal had a deficit against Lyon, had to go over to France. We have beaten Lyon before, 5-1 in the past. But we know that Lyon have not lost many games this season. They've not conceded more than 5 goals in total this season. So it was a heavy, heavy task to even think about going there and getting anything. For Chelsea, it was a case of, we know how strong your attack is. It was more, can we keep Barcelona quiet? And unfortunately, that wasn't the case.
Spoilers.
And Barcelona just destroyed you at the Bridge in a game where it was just ruthless. And I've not seen your team be that bad. I mean, Kira Walsh, it was a shame that she was just so bad in that match, and it's not her fault, but she gave away a couple of the goals. So, it's just not what you'd want to see. But it can happen in the game. But it does set up a very interesting final, especially if that gets reflected in the men's game, and we'll get onto that in a bit. But I guess just looking, broadly at the Women's Champions League, how, in terms of because we've been to a few women's games and we've seen how the standard of football is improving as well, and how I always view it as a similar but different product. It's football, but you got to view it from a different lens, and then you can enjoy it if you're not comparing and contrasting it to the men's game. Yeah. But how impressed are you with the fact that Chelsea was so close to getting there, and obviously just got outdone by a way better team?
It was like waking up from last year's game, which I went to last year. I think this was the first. Last year we played them at Stamford Bridge.
Just first, and then it was
and
second.
The second leg we went to there. It was just a game. It's just a case of switching around the stadium. We still got whooped. No difference to me. It was fine. But no, in all seriousness, though, Barcelona are just that good. From watching them in that leg game last year, you see why they're lauded so massively by the world's press. They are just that good, and it's like it doesn't matter what they're wearing, or whether you're a man or a woman or this or that. Barcelona is Barcelona, where they have that culture of just playing that kind of ruthless football. It tracks no matter what you do, man or woman. It doesn't matter. They are drilled, they are organised, and the football they play is nothing short of sensational. And for a team like us, we're going on to win the WSL. We've already got 1 trophy in the bag as well. Probably to be made to look so ordinary can be quite humbling, but realising that there's always someone out there that's better than you. We've always been on the cusp of getting that Champions League on a few occasions. It's just a case that Barcelona, whatever it is, just seems to kind of have our number. But it's nice to have that rivalry back again. Remember when we had a rivalry with Barcelona for years? Back in the day. So it's nice to kind of see it's kind of reared its head a little bit. So hopefully next time, should we get them, we might get a little bit of vengeance. At least Lauren James didn't get sent off this time. So that's always good. But nah, sometimes and that's the thing with the women's game, is that it's kind of the heart, the sense around it is like, you know what, you were better than us. If that was a men's game, it would all be going off. But it's a women's game. It's all in good spirits. Good luck to her again in the final, whoever wins. But real recognises real, and Barcelona are just that good.
Do you think it might have a knock-on effect on the league now? Because only about a handful of games left to play. You are currently 6 points clear of Arsenal in second. And you haven't lost a game all season, which is quite remarkable for the women. Do you think this defeat in this manner might cause a wobble in the performances?
I don't think so. That's purely because I said they were in the same position last year, where they kind of had at the exact same point of year where they still went on to win the WSL anyway. I think this time last year they were already miles ahead anyway. Yeah. Obviously the gap's a little bit shorter because there have been games where we caught almost short, and a time where we nearly did lose, but we didn't. I don't think it's going to be too much because they know where they stand on the league, because they know they can go out there They're very familiar with it. I mean, Bompassa's come in and taken over from Emma Hayes, which is not an easy job. And it's not even a case. It's not such much of a case of copy and paste. She's very much had her own stamp on things. You know, it's big, very big shoes she has to fill. But I think we're going to be. We might not. I mean, our next game is. I can't remember what our next game is. We might not have it might not steamroll it, but I don't think it's necessarily going to have too much of a wobble. So, I think we're going to wrap it up fairly comfortably. I think we're going to be okay.
Your next game is going to be against Manchester United away. So that could be an interesting one to see if Man United turn up or not. Yeah. But like you said, it's the league looks like it could be there. Champions League is an unfortunate one. But just looking over to the women, Arsenal women, I am just. We were saying Jonas out beginning of the season. No offense to Jonas Eidevall, and he had some comments after he left. When he's now managing in America, talking about the lack of support that he felt, that he wasn't used to the structure we had to work in. He felt like we didn't have a real director of football there to really help him through. Whatever. At the end of the day, he was misusing the squad for a long time, and after a while, and I always think about this when you look at not just women's game, not just the men's game, but in general, when you have established institutions with established cultures, if you don't find a way to respect it and incorporate it whilst trying to bring your own ideas into place, you're always going to have friction. And his biggest problem is that I don't really feel like he ever really grasped the Arsenal culture of doing things. And I'm not just talking about the classy way we are as a club and what we do, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about just generally the football on the pitch. I never felt like the women's team under him were really a full reflection of the Arsenal women's team when Vic Akers was the manager and they would win for fun. When we had Joe Montemurro prior to him. And we've had other managers that have come in, like Pedro Loso and others who have done an okay job and tailed off. But the way how Renee Slagers has come in, and it's just like, from the game one, I was like, oh, something's different here. Okay, let's see how this plays out. I go to the women's games. I've got a season ticket, so I go there when they're at the Emirates, and I've been to a couple of games at Boreham Wood. So I was actually at the Champions League qualifier in Boreham Wood. So I feel like this is like a full circle moment for me. Like I've been there. I was there for the first leg against Lyon. That was disappointment. But
it's a nice stadium, man.
It's a lovely stadium, but I like that vibe. It was just different, and obviously because there's not much seating, you got to stand, you got a chant, and the chants were going off. And at one point, the hero of the game against Lyon, Mariona Caldente, we had a song for her, and she didn't realise we were actually. So at one point, she turned to her Spanish colleague, and like Adina, she was looking at her like, I don't understand. Is this good or is it bad? And they were like, no, let's go, let's celebrate. You go dance with them. And she came over towards us where we were, and everyone was singing and dancing with her. But like, to think we came from qualifying, Champions League qualification, all the way through to the fact that we're now in the final.
Yeah.
To turn around a game against a team like Lyon, who are one of the the most successful women's team in the Champions League, and it's not even close. As good as Barcelona are, they don't have Lyon's record yet. It's amazing, and that's a testament to the manager. It's a testament to the players, and it's all about building that culture. But how impressed are you with like the turnaround for Arsenal? Because at the end of the season, it was doom and gloom. Like at one point, I think I turned to the person I was sitting next to in the stadium. I was like, I don't know if this Emirates thing is working out. If we should just go back to Boreham Wood and forget it. But then, Jonas quit. I mean, I'm glad he quit at the right time. I wish he'd quit like a month earlier. Because if he had done a month earlier, look at the table. You know what I'm saying? Like Arsenal would have been we would have been in points with Chelsea for the league. But anyway, how impressed are you with Renee and what she's done as manager?
It's almost just been like a bit of a lift at the club right now, where everyone's like you said, when it comes to certain clubs, in particular a club like Arsenal, it's getting more than just the football. It's getting the way. It's the Arsenal way of doing things. And with Jonas, it was, I think from what I've seen, I haven't seen much of him, but I remember when we went to the game last year, he got the impression that he was like kind of trying, but also that it wasn't. How am I going to say it? He was trying, but it's just like the expectations just weren't matching up. And the love just kind of wasn't there. You hadn't necessarily kind of bonded kind of too much. There was a sense of belief there. It's not like if it was the men's game, he would have been carried out and thrown out, but it's the women's game. So there's a bit more of a case of empathy there. But he's just, it never worked with him. So this new person's come in, and since then, I keep an eye on women's football now, and I keep an eye. And your results have changed. Your players are happier. The fans are happier. And when you go, because I think you had Liverpool fairly recently at the Emirates, said you won like five something.
Smashed them.
Which, being, all right, Liverpool is Liverpool. I mean, that's something that you could come in and cry home about. I can't necessarily say that Jonas would have done that, but you knew the new boss has come in, giving you a new lease of life. You've got some already good players there anyway.
And also, she was his assistant, so she knew the players. But I think for me, the biggest contrasting point I'll say between the two of them is that Jonas' football was much more cautious. It was like... It's like Southgate-esque football. Safety first. You know when you've... And I think it's probably the really good comparison between the people to understand. Like, Southgate had a gluttony of attacking options at England, and you never really felt like he unleashed them to their fullest potential. We always felt like we were just... Something wasn't quite right with the mix. It's the same issue with Jonas. Like, you have a lot of really quality attacking players, and yet the way we were playing was just too safe. You had Alessia Russo. You had people questioning whether we should have signed Alessia Russo. I'm like, Alessia Gunwoman Russo, are you mad? How can you be questioning her? Alessia Russo now, when I watch her playing, Alessia Russo then, under Jonas, she wouldn't even take a shot. Every time gets the ball, lay it off. Now Russo, she will swivel, she's hitting off shots from nobody's... Like, the goal she's scoring now, it's like she remembered who she is. It's like she forgot who she was under Jonas. That's my main issue. How can you turn a gunwoman, top striker, into it was like watching... It's like we got Nicholas Bentner.
Lord Bentner.
And we were like saying, okay... last season you were the goal scorer. This season you just need to lay the ball off. Just lay the ball off. And then shoot. No, just lay the ball off. Set the play all the time.
No, but I can shoot, man. I can shoot.
She'd be in the box.
Yeah.
Back to goal, but she'd be in the box and she'd just pass it back. And us fans would be like, shoot. And then you just look at her and she just, and then the man just like, good job. And we're like,
I didn't score.
She could have had a shot. But anyway, that's bigger thing with Jonas. But yeah, as you said, like, you can see the difference in how Arsenal play.
The handbrakes, the traction controls come off. And that's the kind of thing where when you're a team blessed with that much talent, you know how they do to go forward. And this is what you're known for anyway. Arsenal are known for their players, as much as they're known for their big, strong defenders up back. You're known for the guys who put the goal in the back of the net. That's what Bergkamp was known for. That's what Perez was known for. That's what Henry's known for. Ian Wright's known for.
And women's teams, you've got Julie Fleeting, Kelly
Smith, Rachel Yankee,
Leanne Sanderson. I could go on and on. Viviana Miedema, who's obviously left, but we've always had goal getters.
You've had goal getters. You're not a club, but like you don't necessarily like to play it safe, and that's that'll be frustrating. And like I said, if this was the men's team would have been on your back every single game. Even if you won, they'd be like, where are the goals? We got a man who could. You got someone, a man, a woman, or a player who's putting away 20 odd. A season on average, and they're barely clearing 5 because of the systematic stuff. Nah, let off the handbrake, let off the traction control. Let them be the monster. I know you have your way of doing it, and systematics and teams and efficiency and all that's well and good. But all those things combined, they're not very interesting to talk about. They're not that interesting. Let's just call it above. They're not interesting, and not guaranteed to win you games, but goals win you games. And like you said, 3-4 years ago, she scored that great back heel going up to... She's a lioness. She's a winning lioness. She scored that famous back heel goal. And that wasn't necessarily by accident. And even if it was, what's going to happen? As Jonas, you get to tell her to lay off from that position? No, you're not. She's a 16th, a striker.
Jonas turned the lioness into a cub. But now she's got her raw back. So I can't argue.
Yes.
Big up Renee Slagers for getting that back out of her and for getting the team playing well. Even Kim Little, the captain, rolling back the years. Player of the match, as we say. Women of the match, player of the match. Just incredible performance from her. Ran the show. And there's been a lot of talk this season about Kim Little, or should she retire? Should we let her go? She signed a new contract extension mid-season, so everyone's like, what's going to happen here? But you know what? Captains do what they need to do when the going gets tough and when they need to perform. They rise their level. And that's been a big criticism looking over to the men's game about the men's captain in Martin Odegaard. And a lot of the online discourse, I think, misses the role he plays and what he does in the team. Should he get more goals? Yes. Is he having a bad season? Absolutely. Should he be sold? No. Are you crazy? I think people don't realise the stuff he does and how he facilitates our play. He's one of the first players to press the opposition player. And I know he's a creative midfielder and there shouldn't really be a requirement of the job, but that's what he has to do as his role. He always sets the play really well. He does keep the tempo moving and he does always present himself as an option to get the ball. Now, there are some games when he seems like he hides a bit and other games when he shows a bit more. And like I said, the numbers aren't really there in terms of the goals and the assists. But if you look at the numbers and of the chances created per game, he's at the top in Europe. Most matches at the top. So he can't be that bad, can he? That being said, before we move over to the men's game fully, one last thing. Obviously, the final coming up, Arsenal-Barcelona in Lisbon. I might be there, I might not be there. We will see. I don't have tickets right now, but I might just go anyway. I'm hoping for a miracle, but we'll see. But what's your prediction? How do you see it going?
If this was Jonas, I would say don't bother.
Well, it ain't Jonas, so thankfully it ain't.
But it's not.
I've been there for a Jonas semi-final disappointment.
Yes, and I've seen you get frustrated as well. This is not Jonas, and even though they're not Lyon level, this Barcelona team I know personally are very, very good. So this is going to be, but you got two very attacking focused teams coming at it. So this could go down and be an absolute goal fest, or they can really be like, right, we've had fun scoring all the way up to here, leading up to now. Let's get a little bit more discipline coming in. This can go one or two ways. I don't think there's going to be a happy medium. This is going to be one extreme or another extreme. And I think it's going to go down to a bit like how I said for the men's, for the Real Madrid, whoever blinks first. Of which, in all brutal honesty, I don't know who it's going to be. I actually don't know because you're coming at it from a different angle now. But I know it's Barcelona, how good they can be. So just be ready, man. All I'm saying is, from experience, just be ready for them because they're good.
I think Barcelona are comfortable favourites. I'll say that much.
They are good.
I'm never going to bet against my team, but they are comfortable favourites. So for me, I do agree. I think we're going to need to be at our best to be in with a good chance of winning. I think we need to be very disciplined in how we perform. We need to not give them anything. No cheap goals, no cheap opportunities.
Don't give them nothing.
And I think the most important thing alongside that is going to be the setup. I think if we play a similar 11 that we played in the last match in the game against Lyon, I think we might be okay. I don't know whether she'll go for the same 11 or if she'll change it, whether she'll bring back in Beth Mead rather than Chloe Kelly. I'd probably stick with Chloe Kelly because I think she just gave a bit more energy in this one. I think the front three picks itself with the front three picks itself with Kelly, our goal scorer Russo and Caitlin Ford on the left. And then behind them, that's where you can debate all day. Do you keep the same three with Frida Marnham, Mariona Caldente and Kim Little? Or do you bring in Kyra Cooney-Cross if you want a bit more kind of energy or passing? Do you take out Leonardo Martson because she hasn't really scored that much in the last few games? Do you go for something different in the midfield? And then the back line, I think pretty much might be what they've been using, which will be Casey McCabe left back, centre back pairing of Leah Williamson and Steph Catley, and then right back will be Emily Fox and then Daphne van Domselaar as our goalkeeper. That's what I was expecting her to start with. She could make changes, probably just in midfield, maybe at centre back if she thinks Lotte might be a better shout over Steph Catley. But Catley and Williamson's been a great partnership, so
yeah,
we shall see. But it's all to play for there, and it's all to play for at the Emirates. Starting off tonight, as you're listening, we have Paris Saint-Germain. I want to be there. I'm not there. I might not be there. I might be there. I don't know yet. As of right now, as recording, I'm not there. But I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying throughout the whole day tomorrow. If a ticket pops up, I'm there. Medea, I'm going to be in the stadium. That's my hope. But if I'm not, I'll be cheering them on from home. But yeah, big game coming up. Massive semi-final in that side of the bracket. How do you think Arsenal should approach it, and what's your expectations for that game?
This is not going to be the same PSG you played in the
early in the season
table format. This ain't the same team. And you can argue that them losing all the high-profile players has done the club a world of good because it's allowed the team to kind of... Sometimes when you have... Because remember, they had Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe at the same time. Then all including the likes of Donnarumma, including the likes of Sergio Ramos, and like vice versa. And the club got a bit too big in the head of itself. The French Galacticos with nothing to show for it. I think in that same line, that same team, they finished second once in Liga 1, which you find very bizarre. But them losing all those megastars and kind of changing the ethos a little bit on developing the players they have and just not being so damn greedy, you can argue has been in their benefit. Liga 1, they're killing it. And coming in this time, I think the one thing you've got to be aware of is at this stage in the competition, they're not the same team you're going to play. And I think a lot of people, when it comes to the winner of this whole competition, the moment you had that first game against Real Madrid, I think the form book got thrown out the window as well. So the winner of this Champions League it's going to be something different because it's been Real Madrid for how long? But yeah, bear in mind, you're stepping into Real Madrid. You caught napping. You caught them absolutely foot off the gas, but they are Real Madrid. It doesn't matter, and you'll take great comfort in the fact that home and away took them to the cleaners. Then again, you have a good history against them anyway, kind of thing. This time though, you're going into something that's a team that a lot of people are going to have as favourites. And I think they kind of know that they're going to be favourites as well. So if you're going to go up against them, you've got to be much more Saliba. He can't do to PSG what he did against Palace. He's got to have his A game together as well. You also got to let's see if Martinelli, if he can roll back how he did that when he went to the Bernabeu, just played like no one was watching. Have that ready as well. Odegaard, keep doing what you're doing. Even though people don't necessarily see it, keep doing what you're doing. Getting those goal involvements. Your star boy is going to be a very marked man as well, because they're going to be aware if a good team will recognise a player as a threat. So, have you got Kai Havertz back?
Not yet, no.
You don't need him. No. In fact, you shouldn't be playing. Should you get to the final, you shouldn't factor into any of it.
If he's fit enough to play in at least the last 2 league games or be on the bench last 2 league games of the season, I think he'll be in the squad for the final. I think he probably will be. Yeah, I think he will be in the squad for the final because I think he'll be fit enough to. But to me, he has to play at least 1 or 2 games before. So Saka, obviously, we didn't play him until he played 2 games. He played some behind closed door friendlies. He had 2 of those, and then he was on the bench. In the game against Fulham that I went to. So I know that will be the case of Havertz. He'll have that to build him up because he's he's back in the training ground. He's not on the grass yet. He's doing gym work. He's getting stronger. But I think for me, just have him as an option would be great. But yeah, if he doesn't play any games, you can't include him.
No, I think he should be on the bench. He should at least have him on the bench as much as we say this and that about him because he's good at scoring goals. He's not a striker, but he can sit there. He's a good focal point. He's a more streamlined version of Giroud. Just put a point like that. But yeah, just be realising just the fact that they lost their star power doesn't make this team any less dangerous. In fact, if anything, it makes them more dangerous. So you're going to have to bear that in mind. But this is an entirely different situation and team that you're going to be playing this today, basically.
Which player do you think is going to be the one to watch out for? Because everyone has different theories as to who's going to be the most biggest threat from Paris Saint-Germain's team. Obviously, there's players I like, but across their squad, who do you think is the one to watch out for that's going to give Arsenal the most problems in the game?
Who's kind of flown on the radar? It's got a guy and a guy, man. I had it in my head who's kind of flown on the radar.
What position is he playing?
In the midfield.
Oh, so you have Vitinha, you have João Neves, and you have Fabian Ruiz.
Probably like Fabian Ruiz. I think he's very. I like these kind of players. He kind of reminds me of like a João Vitinha a little bit, kind of just flow under the radar. No one really kind of noticed what he does until a little bit later on. So I think he's going to be kind of one that kind of give your players a little bit of worry. But I think it's the battle. I think personally is going to be in the midfield because it's where for the most change.
Yeah, their midfield 3 is really good. You got João Neves and Vitinha, who are just do everything. They tackle, they press really well, they pass really well, they dribble really well. So they're a threat there.
Yeah, absolute trifecta in the midfield, yeah.
Yeah, and then you got Fabian Ruiz, who's an incredible passer and like metronome at just keeping things ticking on. And his passing, the accuracy and how he splits.
It's like NFL. It's like a quarterback.
Oh, he's crazy.
Quarterback levels of accuracy.
I know we were linked. It was linked to Arsenal before the Euros kicked off, and I was like, Then I watched a few games. I was like, and then we signed Marino. No knock to Marino, but it's very different types of players and they offer different things. But yeah, I think obviously the front four, depending which three they go for, Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, Doué, who will probably be on the bench, and Barcola, those four are always going to be a problem for us, and we're going to have to find ways to keep them quiet. I think their midfield is where they're probably the most vulnerable, to be honest, because that's what we saw in the Liverpool game. That's what we saw in the Aston Villa game. You can get at their midfield. They're very quick and industrious, but if you can get around them, get over them, get through them, then you're at that back line. And Marquinhos, I can't rate that guy. Every time I see him, I see a mistake in him every time. I think Pacho is okay. Nuno Mendes is good, and obviously Hakimi is good, and Donnarumma I don't rate. So there's players that you can get at in that. You get through the midfield, and that them five people there back there, only two of them you depend on for your life. The other three depends what day of the week it is. They might come through, they might not. Donnarumma, hero in the cup final, in the Euros against England. Rubbish in the cup they had the other day. So you don't know what you're going to get.
Funny thing with Donnarumma, I've never really rated him that high. He's good, but I've never really your top goalkeepers. He don't really fit in.
But you know what it is with Donnarumma?
Yeah.
Because he's only 25 now, but he's been playing for over a decade. Because remember, he started really young.
Yeah.
He was first choice when he was 17 in Milan. So he's been going for a long time. So I think that gives him a level of prestige because he's been a young goalkeeper that's played at the highest level for a number of years. He obviously ousted Buffon for the national team, so he's got that on his back. But you never really feel 100% secure with him. I always feel like someone will get something out of you. And it's not just because of how he saves the ball or how he comes out. I just look at him and I just think he switches off in games.
I know how I feel with Sanchez.
Like he switches off in games. And it's when he switches off, it's just there was one game he had the ball passed back to him, took his time with it, got it pinched off him. Last season in the Champions League, and they conceded a goal. So, against Real Madrid. So I do feel like, I don't fear that guy. I just think he's tall, but there's a lot of spaces to squeeze the ball past you, mate. And you got to get down and save it, all right? So that will be with him. Obviously, from an Arsenal point of view, because we're going to have Partey out for the first leg because of the stupid clash he had in the game of Madrid match, which is just really terrible. But how would you see Arteta reshaping the midfield now to make up for that loss? Because there's several different ways he can go about it. He can go the really adventurous route and move Skelly into midfield and then change at left back. He could put Zinchenko in there, which he has done in a couple of games. Marino was in training today, so he could bring him back into midfield and then try Trossard through the middle, which we have done in a couple of games. What would you do? Because Arsenal fans, we don't really have a concrete idea of what he can do, but what would you do, considering how PSG are as a team?
You want someone to get at them and try and, expose the little holes that they have. I'd go for broke and just be like, you know what, let's capitalise on this kid having a really good season. Let's go with Lewis Skelly. Okay. The guy is young, he's watched the success of Saka coming through the youth ranks as well, besides Chelsea, also do have a good youth rank. So they're not going to be necessarily too clued up on what Lewis Skelly is going to do. Maybe even Lewis Skelly doesn't know what he's going to do. But that youthful experience, that kind of, excitement can be very dangerous to a club that's so organised. We've seen it in the past how when you bring up for someone, especially if it's their first game, and they go up and take on the establishment, anything can happen. With Theo Walcott first broke up on the scene, no one knew what he was going to do. When Gareth Bale first broke on the scene, no one else necessarily what he. All right, when he went to Real Madrid that first time, he was already experienced with Tottenham, but when he got there, look what he did. Go for some excitement, but if you want to be safe, bit more dependable, you probably go down doing the right with Trossard. With Trossard, I find that you guys want to move on from him, and considering where you are, you have every right to move on from him. He's one of those he's an effective kind of squad player. So every now and then, again, you've proven with squad players, they might do something, but they might do something that you're surprised by yourself. Going back to Liverpool, remember Liverpool caught the semi-final against Barcelona, 3-0 down. They had no right to come back from where they were. But they came in that second leg, they came back. It wasn't necessarily their big hitters that got them back. It was the squad players that kind of come back. You're in a different situation here. This is the first leg, but it doesn't mean that the squad players can't necessarily do something exciting, because at the end of the day, they're potentially playing for their new contracts. They're playing to possibly stay at the club. Trossard knows, even though he's slotted in well, at the club since he's been there, he's not the final solution. He's not your last resort. You can and will do better than him. So, but if he wants to keep on, at least for another year, that's the time where he's really going to perform and give that midfield absolute hell, which we know that he can. So, but I would like to see, I would be cool to see Lewis Skelly in that position, especially with the prospects for England as well. So I'll probably go with the first option.
So if you went for Skelly there, what would be your back four then? Because then you're taking him out of left back, moving him up. Who would then get the spot in left back in his place?
Left back. Zinchenko can play left back, right?
Zinchenko can play left back. Tierney can play left back. You could move Timber over there. Calafiori is not back in training yet.
I wasn't. I had Calafiori in my mind, but I know that he's still injured. He's still injured, right?
Yeah.
So I would have Zinchenko, I'd have Gabriel and Saliba, because he just...
Gabriel's injured. So it'd be Zinchenko, Kivior and Saliba.
And who would be on the right?
Timber. Ben White was in training, but I think Timber will start.
Is he in the squad?
Ben White should be. I don't know the squad. He was in training.
Yeah. So maybe. Sorry. Timber at the right. Timber at the right. So Timber right. Who did I say the left back is on?
You said Zinchenko.
Zinchenko. And then
Kivior
and Saliba. It's always going to be a difficult situation because of a lack of Gabriel, but it's the options that you have. So I might be wrong, but I'm having fun when I'm here. You never know what will happen.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how he wants to do it. I know typically we don't want to make too many changes in personnel with the squad. So the problem with moving Skelly into midfield is then you're making two changes rather than just one, because you're moving him from left back, so you got to replace him there. You put him into midfield. So I think it's highly likely he'll probably start Zinchenko in the middle, because he's played there for his country. The only question would be, does he want to have a runner? So I think you could go Zinchenko in midfield with Ødegaard, and then you sit Rice at the base.
Yeah.
So you can mop up the threat of the two aliens and the genius. But then what it means is when we have the ball, you've got two players that can progress it really well and really quickly, because that's what Zinchenko will give us in place of Partey. Because Jorginho's injured as well, and I think he's probably out for the season. So that's what you get as a replacement. So that would then give us an attacking threat. It means then that the likes of Martinelli, Saka, and if he does start Marino, can think about making those runs in behind, because he knows Zinchenko will play it there.
Gives them more freedom.
Yeah. So that's what the option that we get, and that's the positive side of it. You do lose out on Partey's physical qualities and what he can do on the ball. So, on the ball, they're probably matched actually, but off the ball, you're going to lose a lot. So. Big chance for Zinchenko, and also it may even give pause for thought in terms of next season, because he's one that I know Borussia Dortmund was sniffing around in January, so that might mean that he ends up staying if there's a possibility of him being given a role in midfield, which Craig has been crying out for a long time, and he has played there this season in place of Ødegaard, so that's something to look forward to. As for the other semi-final, Inter versus Barcelona. What do you think is going to happen there? Who do you think is going to make it through on top after the first leg?
Barcelona. They're kind of, we said it was a kind of thing for redemption this year, and after I'm not going to call it massive mediocrity, because they're still doing relatively well for what they've been through after the loss of Messi, and the fact that they've moved stadiums, and the fact that they were broke for a long time and taken on a lot of rejects. This is a team that's very much a redemption recovery, utilising a lot of younger players, still having some older heads. Lewandowski's still going. How he's still going, I don't know. Defying age beautifully. And Hansi Flick he's turned them around massively. And I'm not saying that they're back, but they're on the home straight. They're kind of on the home straight. As good as Inter Milan have been, I think that Barcelona is going to have too much, and I think a few people kind of have them as one of the favourites to get to the final, not to win, but to get to the final. They've had and then they've just been brilliant. Did they finish in the top half of that table? Barcelona did.
Yeah,
they finished in that top half. So, when Madrid didn't, I kind of showed throughout the whole. That showed throughout the whole progression to when you played them. As much as we thought it was going to be much more difficult, their campaign's been terrible this year. Let's be British. By Real Madrid standards, it's been terrible. But Barcelona, on the other hand, they've kind of really kind of just recovered in the background, and they've got that youthful energy right now. They've got one of the most it players in football. So, no disrespect to Inter, they're a good club. They've done really well to get this far, but it's Barca's final to not get to, basically. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult, and I like the fact there's a possibility of a Barca-Arsenal final, but we got to get there. And I think the neutrals would want a PSG-Barca final because obviously on paper that could be very exciting because they're two of the best attacking teams in world football right now. An Inter-Arsenal final could be interesting as well. Run it back to the San Siro 5-1 Thierry Henry hat-trick. If you know, you know. If you don't, do some Googles. 2003 season, get to know. But either way, it's going to be very exciting whichever way it goes. So I, for one, am looking forward to these next couple of games. I am going to be very nervous-ish going into this. I know we've beat PSG before, but they are a slightly different team. So we've got to factor that in as well. But I am just really hopeful that we can bring it all together and just deliver. And on that note, thank you all for listening. It's going to be a great year for cup teams in the cup. It might be a London whitewash across the board. It really could be.
Yeah, it could.
Because Tottenham could win the Europa.
Yep.
But just stay with people. Don't switch off just yet. Chelsea could win the conference. Tottenham Europa. Arsenal maybe Champions League.
Crystal Palace
FA Cup.
Women's Champions League.
Women's Champions League. Arsenal. This could be a very fun London summer.
Get the London look.
And also, you're all welcome for the sunshine. So you're welcome. We're bringing the good vibes everywhere.
Just before we sign off, we can't not go and give credit for more history being made in the weekend. Not one, not two, 3 promotions on the bounce for the mighty Wrexham.
Yes, we have to. Wrexham. So, that's a good point. I think people are, and I'm going to throw this question to you as well as our final thing today, because you're right, we can't forget about Wrexham. Obviously, they're seen as the Hollywood club because they're literally owned by Hollywood superstars and they got backing all over the place. But they have built the squad right. Because yes, they invested a lot of money into it, but they've done a lot of stuff in the community. They've really kept that community feel as they've been rising through the ranks and through the divisions. 3 promotions back to back to back. They're now up to the Championship. I think their target was to get to the Premier League in 5.
5, yeah.
So they could do it in 4. Now, the pundits, and I'm talking about Gary Neville and them lot, they all think they're going to be in there for a minimum of 5 years, a maximum of 10 years in the Championship. I think my guess, because the Championship is very difficult, because any team can get up. And I feel like that's going to work in their favour. I think they'll make the playoffs.
I agree with that.
That's my prediction. I think they will finish in the playoff spots, either the last playoff spot or the spot above. And I'll also go as far as say they will be leading the Championship at some point next season, and then they will drop off a little.
They led League One for a bit. They were leading League One. So
I'm going to say Wrexham to make the playoffs, and at that point, they'll make it 4 in a row. But that's my bet, because we need a different team in the league. You know, congratulations to Leeds, congratulations to Burnley, who've made it automatically. We'll see who makes it in the playoffs. We have a team we don't want to come up. Not going to name them, but you know who you are. And, Sunderland, if you can make it, for the love of God, please, I am imploring you, get to Wembley and get back in the league. We need the Tyne Ware derby back. We need Sunderland back.
Please.
Everyone else, it's between you and God. I'm not going to help. I'm not helping. I'm not involved. Sunderland, you know where my loyalties lie. We'll see you all next time. But wait, what's your take? You think they'll do it, Wrexham?
I think they're going to get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think they'll get to Wembley. After that, I couldn't tell you. But if they don't make it in the first, they could very well make it in the second. If they go in the way they're going, recruiting players that It's almost as if they've done the Leicester, where if you see the players that they've recruited, they're recruiting players that still have a point to prove.
And are good enough for the league above that they're going
And they're
into.
good, and I argue they're too good for the league that they're already in. They started off with Ben Foster, then they got the likes of James McLean, Jay Rodriguez,
Arthur Okonkwo in goal
Arthur
from
Okonkwo
Arsenal.
in goal, who's been an absolute revelation for them.
18 clean sheets this past season.
Good, very good keeper, very good keeper. Then you had, who is it? Is it Stephen Fletcher or something like that? Or another ex-Premier League kind of like lower mid-level club striker, but that could absolutely fly in the Premier League. You kind of, and like you said, they've done it the right way, where they haven't gone ahead and built like a mega Mongo Galactico stadium. They've kept the stadium as it is, but they've just improved on it. They've embraced themselves in the culture, and they've done what football needs, is where they keep the people that are important to the town, because it's a tradition town. It's a tradition town. And then from being in Philadelphia, they recognize that. They're kind of like kindred spirits in a way. They haven't taken it. A lot of like clubs in like, especially in the Premier League, they take the club away from the fans to appeal to people that they want. But for all of what they've done and given it that money, they've kept the people around. They've listened to them. They've still given a front row seat, because at the end of the day, they're the people that make it important. And if you don't believe me, watch the documentary on Disney Plus. Fantastic documentary, by the way. But you watch them, now they've been promoted, you watch the players they're going to try and pull in. You know what, dare I say it, that's the hot take, I've known one for a while, they're going to be the team to watch in the transfer window. Forget everyone else, they're going to be the ones to watch.
For what deals they go for.
For what deals they can get, for what they've done previously, very clever. You think Newcastle are clever, this is very good. Because they're going to start, if they were serious about this whole progress thing, watch the names they're going to try and go for. And watch the names they can get.
If you were to make a guess as to who they would target, what's one name that you think would be an interesting signing for them to make, whether it be on loan or a transfer? And I'm looking at teams that are in the Championship and teams that have gone down to the Championship.
Ooh, you know what? There's one guy, I can't remember his name, but I think he's on loan there right now. Young Asian player, very good.
Who's he playing for?
QPR.
Oh.
Really good player. Someone like that, where it's like, they're not headline, but they're effective in what he'll be that's a smart signing right there. Someone who's like a smart signing.
Okay.
And maybe one.
Is he a winger?
Yeah.
Oh, Koki Saito?
Yeah. Good player. Really good, fun player to watch. And you know what? If I was being really ambitious, I could tempt him away from the Premier League, but he can do good bits. Somebody who's good at that kind of that lower level, but like can really perform at that level. And they're in the Premier League right now, well, currently. Danny Ings. Someone like Danny Ings. He's in the Championship, because he's at Southampton, right? Is it Southampton or West Ham?
West Ham.
But he's not really getting much in the way of game time, and considering the season they've had right now. But that's the example. I'm not saying exactly him, but somebody like him would be a good kind of thing to start with, or start pinching from academies.
Because he'll have a point to prove, Danny Ings, and he could get them goals to keep them up. But it'll be interesting to see what Wrexham do. But hey, last we said it here, and we're saying it again, Wrexham, we think you'll do a four-peat. And if you do, welcome to the Premier League. Yes. But until then, the Championship is a dangerous place that many clubs get stuck in. So don't get stuck, and make your way out. That's us signing out.
Peace.